What's happening? Thank you for tuning in for another amazing and great episode of the CardinOLL podcast. What is the CardinOLL podcast, you ask? It's a classroom podcast that has been designed to interview industry professionals, leaders, and experts so that we can gain their insight so that we can help take your leadership and your learning to the next level immediately. You know, like I always do, I'm going to do it again today as well. I'm going to start off with a great quote. Today's great quote is this: success comes from going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. That quote was made by none other than former United Kingdom Prime Minister Winston Churchill. That's a great quote. But let me tell you, even something greater than the quote is this. This month, join me as I interview some of our successful alumni from the one and only OLL program right here, as I'm representing from the University of Louisville. So you know, like I always tell you to do, today's no different. Go get your pens, your pencils, your notepads, your memo boards, your iPads, your laptops, whatever it is you take notes with, and get ready to learn something phenomenal from this week's guest. Join me as I head into our classroom to interview our amazing guest today. You won't be disappointed.
All right, Cardinal Nation, you are in for a treat of all treats. Today I have the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Charles Rumschlag with us today. That's right. Right? You can tell already this is going to be a high energy, high impact interview today. Charles, how's it going today, sir?
Oh, it's excellent. It's Freaky Friday. I'm sitting in here in, Cardinal Nation, Northern New York is what I call it, my war room. I got my degree on my back wall, one of my biggest crowning achievements ever in my life. But other than that, we're ready to roll up. We're ready to roll up to the weekend and get winter stuff done. I don't know if you have it in Louisville, but it's starting to snow up here in Northern New York, so we're all excited.
No snow here yet. Little rain. Had some rain we had to overcome. So obviously, if rain's coming, that just means it's not cold enough for it to snow just yet. So
all right,
getting there, but not yet. So as we do on the podcast, we jump in on the deep end of the pool and we go head first right into it. So let's start with our very first question. Let's get it right up on the screen. Charles, how is it that you define leadership?
Oh man, there's about 100 academic answers for that one, right? But my roots in true applied leadership really come from the United States Army for my 20 years, and what I've come to learn, and actually what I've read during my studies at Louisville, really leadership is your ability to grab the energy of your team, the energy of people around you, harness that energy, and get that energy flowing in the same direction. That's the same in combat. That's the same in business. That's the same in a baseball team, a football team. And that's how I really define leadership, the ability to make everybody's energy push to the direction that you guys want to go. And it takes a very special person. We call them leaders, but it takes a certain person that has that understanding to be called a leader, to channel that energy and get it where it needs to go, for good or bad. And that is the burden, and that is also the privilege of leadership. Okay, that failure is yours, and that winning is yours.
Right.
That golden ticket. So that's how I define leadership, simply put.
Man, that's amazing. Again, very unique definition. We've had things that kind of allude to that, but no one's ever said getting the energy and moving in the same direction. I think that's a very unique. You get it, right? Like that is probably the hardest part of a leadership, if I were to dissect or digress that, because getting everyone on the same page is one thing, but then getting energy and pushing in a direction is something totally different. So do you have any tips, any tricks of how you get that energy moving?
Well, again, a lot of my leadership roots come from the Army. We had a thing that said, be, no, do. All right. Never put yourself in a position that you wouldn't do yourself or have anybody else do yourself. Next is, champion successes, as well as take a look at failures as a tool for the next success. You know what I mean? It's the end of the world's not going to, well, we hope it doesn't, but the end of the world's, with one little failure. That's how I see, that's my leadership style. That's what I try to do here. But, understand that you got to put in the extra hours sometimes. You got to put in that extra study to understand, to make people, to put yourself in a position where people understand you and believing. And, you know, nobody wants we've all had fool leaders, right? Just because, you know, in the Army, sometimes you got a dude, because he had the rank, you had to listen to him, but you could tell he didn't know what he was talking about. You know, put yourself in a position where you're not going to put yourself in that position. You know, sometimes when I work with my project managers here at work, you know, I'm breaking out the PMBOK. I'm getting on their level. You know, I'm looking at engineering manuals so that I can speak their talk. I'm not an engineer.
Right.
No, I'm an operations manager, but darn it, I'll be darned if I need to focus that energy. I'm going to grab some of their energy, and that's one way to do it and get us in the right direction, or the best direction that I can. You know?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So we've talked a little bit about that. Well, you know, if you could describe, put an adjective, put a name, put a style, put something on it, you know, how would you define your leadership style?
Sir, I got to tell you, I don't have one style of leadership. It's very scenario based. I learned this a long time ago. I was a drill sergeant in the Army at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I thought, like, when I was a private, that drill sergeants were just very scary and very mean. And then when I became one, I learned that there are days that, yeah, you got to be mean and get things done quick, but there's days I had to take the hat off and really find out what was wrong with a soldier. You know, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know where they've been. You don't know how their body's feeling. So that is where empathy really is one of the biggest things you have to master if you're going to be a good leader, I think. Some people call it, you know, watered down sissy leadership. The world doesn't work that old way anymore. The slave driver, the taskmaster, the manager, those days are over. All right. And and there's no reason for it. So I think, you know, channeling on that empathy, discovering your emotional intelligence really is what you got to do. And with that emotional intelligence, it kind of falls into plan. Funny story. The funny thing here, if you take care of your people, you don't even have to worry. It's like everything falls into place. You know, you treat people decently with the golden rule, and things really fall into place. It's amazing. It's been written somewhere 10,000 years ago, and here it is. Still true today in 2021.
So speaking of the golden rule, and speaking of, you know, some of your experiences, whether they be military or in your work experience, you know, just curious, you know, obviously you come up with your energy scenario, your energy outline, you have a scenario-based style, more leadership. Speaking of all that, you know, who do you think best exemplifies your definition of leadership?
In my life, my grandfather, Floyd Andrew Rumschlag. He's gone on to a better place now, but that man was a World War II vet. He was a union president for our local UAW back there in Northwest Ohio, pipelining right into Detroit, all those automotive goods.
Right.
And he was cool. He had 12 kids, and he had a trash route to help pay for all that, you know, all that stuff, and keep the family going. But I saw him do things when I was a kid, like at the union barbecues. People showed an absorbent amount of respect for him, and I never really understood why until I got older and asked. And it's because he took care of them. Right. Either he negotiated a dental plan, or he brought on somebody's son to get into an apprenticeship program so that he could have a future in the factory, or even people in our street always couldn't afford their trash taken because, you know, and I'm not saying that, extreme charity is the only way to leadership, but it's taking care of people. And it actually really equates to business, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Did a few of them, you know, and I think I heard a story that a few of them vote against him, you know, later on and vote him out of office. Yeah, but he didn't hold that to him. He told me that, you know, that's the burden of leadership. That's the burden of being in charge and being a boss. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to agree with you. It's just about how can you like having a baseball team. He was also a little league baseball coach. He's like, how do you get that little bit of your little piece of the pie and get it all to work as one happy place, just as long as you can. So to me, he really exemplified what a leader was, whether he knew it or not. You know, he graduated high school, which was big time for somebody born in 1917. You know what I mean? For his little town. So, but I always thought that he was the best leader of our family, the patriarch. Not quick to criticize, but quick to care and love. Right. You know, he had 3 sons and the rest were daughters. So that poor man, you know, long nights staying awake, you know, but he was always quick to care. And for us grandkids, it was the same. Yeah, we get a switch once in a while in the old days, but for the most part, it was ice cream. It was teaching. It was learning how to play cards, you know. So.
I love it. Are there any other larger models, larger than life models out there that you kind of look to that you think get it done on the real world level?
Well, in the real world level, I'm a churchgoer. I always thought Jesus was a great leader. If we talk historical, no matter what your persuasion is, I think, look, 2,000 years later, the Christian influence on the world is not diminished. It really hasn't. It has not gone away, and it never will, I don't think. And that's good. Right. You could say the same for Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, or even Moses on the Judeo-Christian side. A lot of people still hang on to those beliefs, but nothing's changed the way we think, and how even governments would be formed since Jesus. So there's maybe not his intent, probably right. More of a saving thing, but I think there's that. On the business side, I always Jocko Willink, in the military, extreme ownership's a mantra we've picked up here at our company. But really about looking inside. Where did I grow up before brandishing a subordinate not worthy or terrible? What did I do wrong? Where did I fail to train him? Where did I fail to serve this guy? Did I give him all the resources he or she needs? All right. Is our culture good enough for them to even grow here? That's the kind of stuff I think helps nurture your leadership ability. And a lot of that's really explained in the program. I first kind of read the academic side in the ELFH program at Louisville. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I finally saw it in print. You hear it and then you see it in print and it kind of melds together. And then in business, you put it in action, so it's like, okay, it works. It's real.
I love it. So when you look at guys like Jocko, or you look at your grandfather, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, I think they kind of did do exactly how you define leadership. They were great. Well, especially Moses, if we're looking from a story standpoint, a narrative standpoint of getting a bunch of people right to move in a direction and change and do some things and go in a different direction. I mean,
the whole book of it.
Yeah, can't get a really much better example than that. But when it all comes down to it, at the end of the day, after you're looking at how you get this energy and how you get these people to move in a direction, what at night makes you, or what inspires you, what motivates you to say, I can do this. I can lead people. I can be great. I can do an amazing thing. I can handle this task. Clearly, I know you mentioned a little bit of your military background. You mentioned, growing up. You mentioned some other things. But what is that says that keeps you going, that lights your fire, that says I can do this?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, man, because I got these. I call them memory gems. These memory gems are kind of like the 3 to 4 principles. Mm-hmm. That I pretty much live by. And first off, let's take it pertaining to work. First off, do your job and do it well to the best of your ability. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if you play football, if you're a janitor, just do that because there's honor in that. Which too brings up the next thing. Remember, you're always being evaluated by senior, peer, and subordinate more than anything. So no matter where you fall in the fold, you're always being evaluated. And that's good. That keeps you conscious and that keeps you, on the moral path. Third is honor your legacy. Honor your legacy. All right. Understand who came before you, where you're at. And I'm not talking in a giant historical sense, but even in a micro sense, you know what I mean? Maybe there was an operations manager before me. What was their experience like? What did they do in this company? What was the company like before I came here? Right. In the Army, we do tons of traditions to honor our legacies. But with that in mind, if you can't go through your day and deal with people and go back to your child and look them in the face and say, I had a great day today and I did what I could to make my, place better. I would want to go back and be like, hey, I honored your legacy today, young man. I did better today. I did good. I failed at some things, but I'm going to drive on. So those are kind of my 3 memory gems that keep me going. And I stick to them, and it's worked out pretty good, I think.
Yeah. So, did you read about memory gems? Is that something you picked up in the military? Is something, grandpa taught you? Is it something you just came up with on top of your head? How'd you come up with the term memory gems? Because I really like that, actually.
Oh, so I had believe it or not, I was an operations NCO in the Army later in my career. And I had a operations officer, and he was known to be a hard ass. Pardon my French, but he was a tough one. He was really tough on his officers, tough on his NCOs. And then I was kind of already working 2 pay grades above what I was supposed to be. And he and I got together. He was my boss. So we got together our first night, or after a couple, about a week working together. He's like, we have the same memory gems. I've heard you talking to our men. And I'm like, what are memory gems? And he explained it exactly like I just said. And I'm like, that's exactly how I look at life. And I never knew what to call it, but he called it memory gems. And, and we became, really good friends and really good coworkers ever since.
Man, I love that. I love that story that goes along with that too. That is amazing. And I'm definitely going to have to steal that. So whoever that operations officer was and you, I'm definitely stealing memory gems. You heard it here first. So if you hear me
Free
saying
chicken,
it,
man.
But hey, I'll definitely give you credit, right? I don't believe in, I believe in citing my sources, right? I will say exactly where I got it from.
There you go.
You don't have to be out in the cold. You don't have to be one of these people, one of these 1.3 million people who don't have a bachelor's degree. If you have some college, no degree, or no degree at all, we wanted you to be a part of the BSOLL family. We want you to be part of Cardinal Nation. So guess what? If you want to learn to lead with compassion and expertise in an ever-changing world, if you want to learn to lead like never before, if you want to be a leader in your organization, in your career, and be the true game changer that we know you're meant to be, that's what I want you to do. I want you to go get on your computer or go get out your mobile device and go over to uofl.me/BSOLL-podcast. Again, that's uofl.me/BSOLL-podcast. On that site, you're going to learn how you can save money for your degree in tuition through our PLA program. You're going to learn about our 9 degree tracks. And yes, most importantly, you're going to be able to request information so that we can get in contact with you really, really soon. Again, check us out, uofl.me/BSOLL-podcast.
So transitioning a little bit off of the leadership module and getting a little bit onto learning, clearly, obviously with operations all, through all types of your career. So learning has to take place. How do you think that learning does take place on both and or individually or on the group level? How do you see learning? How do you know, as a professor, right? I enjoy when the light bulb goes off, right? When we see that, the student gets it. But, how do you know in your industry and your work experience, how do you know when that happens, when that light goes on and they actually get it and they can actually start getting some things done for the company?
Oh, wow. Great. I'm glad you brought that up, man. That's awesome. Because part of my gig was to bring us kind of into the 21st century in our company, get us onto modern processes and practices. And I'm going on my 3rd year. First year was kind of rough, but now I'm seeing it. And this is how I'm seeing it. More collaboration, more empathy, more understanding, more openness to try new things and listen to different people's techniques, more professional development, being handled by other leaders and not just one person. You know what I mean? So those are how I see in my world right now, how we're growing as an organization and how what we're trying to do here goes. And I haven't dug right into our company. I know that on what we're trying to do here, but organizational change is kind of the basis of that. And that's how you see it taking place. Now on the individual, you got to come to terms. I think we all got to come to terms. There are people, we'll say any profession, there are people that want a career and there are just people that want a job, right? And, that person that just wants the job might never have the desire to learn anymore. And you got to accept that. All right. It's your job as the leader to find where they fit. Okay. Right. That person that wants a career, now you got to find a way to see, first off, what their learning capacity is. How far are they willing to go to get better and get more trained, whatever it is you got to do, and see if they're brave enough to do it.
Gotcha.
That's really, and how do you know when they're ready? Well, it comes from, I think it really, in an organization like this, it comes from a very thorough and thought out professional development plan for your people. And that's what leaders have to do out there. I know we're not getting into professional development plans, so to say, but I think that lays the groundwork to get it started. At least it gets the conversation going. For example, one thing we do here, we do quarterly, we don't do column evaluations, we do quarterly counseling here at our company. And it is a conversation. It's not here's an X for excellent and a 1 for not good enough. It's very pointed questions on where they want to go in the company. And It's almost like a trick, but it's not.
No, I mean, I think you bring up a very good key point that, you know what, I may even have to rethink this question a little bit moving forward, because there's a difference between a person who is definitely interested in, hey, I want to do this and get really better. So I'm coming at it from a career focus versus, hey, I'm just trying to get a check on Friday so I can pay rent and bills. Because, I think I'm going back to your definition, Charles, going all the way back to the beginning, when that person is just there to get the check on Friday or every other week or however often they get paid, do you find it is hard to lead that person or to get their energy moving in the same direction? Because like they're there for a reason, right? They're there for a purpose. They probably do a good job. Otherwise, I'm assuming you at some point the organization would separate from that individual. But we know they don't bring the same passion to work every day as that career-minded person. So how does that work for you? What advice would you give to a leader who's trying to? I know I have people here who are passionate, and I have people here, because they need to be here to pay rent.
Right.
How do you get them moving in the same direction? How do you get the best out of that person?
Well, what I find, those that are generally there that just want the job, you really just have to lay out what you need them to do. Because most of them aren't like, they're not derelict in the duties. All right. Yeah. But you're not going to get any of that extra initiative or thinking outside the box. They're just going to do what you said that they came here to be paid for do. So one way to deal with that is just be brutally honest with them. Like, look, I'm looking for this kind of passion. I'm looking for this movement. I'm just going to ask you straight up, can you handle it? Do you have the ability to handle it? And if they say yes, just tell me what to do. Then tell them what to do. But you got to understand they're not going to like help you develop the idea or the plan in their department to grow. That's how I deal with it. And some of them get scared and just leave, and then we hire somebody else. That's just the nature of business. And some of them change. You're never really going to. People haven't had their personality since they were about 13, so you're not going to change that. Mm-hmm. But when you're brutally honest, like, look, you have two subordinates under you. I know you're not passionate about X, Y, and Z and how we're going in the company. That's fine. But understand this. They get it. They will surpass you in promotion if ... Okay. Right. And usually that's enough to be like, okay, you got me. I'll be your leader. All right. But otherwise they're like, I don't care. And that's still fine. They're still doing their job. And you're like, okay, just as long as you understand that. And some people are actually good with that.
Yeah.
Some people are, you can't, the world is a funny place. You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. And I think, it's on us as leaders and managers, whatever we want to call it today. It's on us to just exploit what's good out of everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've done some shuffling here. A project manager moved to another project type of project management because that's really where they shine. One guy moved from one department to the other. They've got talent.
Yeah.
Let's bring that energy in and let's put it where it fires up the light bulb. You know what I mean? Yeah. I rambled a little bit. I'm sorry. I got excited.
No. I mean, and because I think that's true, because, one of the monikers we use for the OLO program is that if you want to learn to lead with compassion, expertise, and empathy, right, this is the program for you. And I think that when you just hit the nail on the head, sometimes that honest conversation, that is how you're going to lead with empathy, compassion, and expertise. Because like you said, I realize you're good in something, but maybe we're in the wrong area. So maybe we put you in the wrong place. Like there's an organizational flaw in that. And right. And I have to go to, Charles has to go to his superior and say, hey, this person is great in this area. We put them in the wrong place. If we really want to get better over here, we need to make a change. And that's that expertise. But then there's that empathy piece too. Like, listen, I know you're not fired up on this, but if you really, you're leading people and they're watching you, right? It goes back to your gyms, right? You're getting evaluated by someone, and I need you to kind of step up to the plate on this one. So I think that's phenomenal. I think that's great.
Thank you. That's it. Again, it's all going back to that emotional intelligence. That's really that is what the core word is called, emotional intelligence. I don't think we say that enough in academia to describe that. We talk about empathy, sympathy. I took a business ethics class in my program. Mm-hmm. Best C I ever earned, but but we don't really draw on what that emotional intelligence is, and there's so many people we can draw examples from. So.
No doubt, no doubt. So one thing I want to kind of keep the conversation going. One thing we talked about is that Seth Godin, who's a leadership marketing expert, he says that people need less mentors and more heroes. And I just want to know what you think of that statement when you hear that, when you see that. Does that ring true? Do you think that's there? What do you think?
So this one reads like a headline. So I watched it. I watched that on YouTube, just so you know. But this one, caught my attention at first. I'm like, oh, aren't they kind of the same? So it was almost like, not to bring up a dead phrase, but it was almost like fake news when I figured out what they were talking about. So to the context of the story, there are many organizations out there. LinkedIn's a big one of them. Not going again. Love LinkedIn. That's how I found my job here. But LinkedIn's one that has a bunch of like seminars and webinars and what you need to do to be successful to find a job, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of young people are highly influenced by social media, are getting told, mentor up, find a mentor, talk to them, pick their brain. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's Seth Godin, you don't need mentors, you need heroes. And at first I'm like, all right, you just paint with a different brush, man, but it's still going to come up. Yeah. But then I watched it further, and I think he's kind of right. Most of my mentors in my mind, I never talked to him about mentorship. I didn't say, hey man, give me your knowledge and all your energy and let me be like you. It wasn't like that. It was different sergeants and leaders that I saw. I'm going to be like that. I'm not going to be like that ever. Right. You know what I mean? I look at my grandpa like, man, I'm holding up a family man like that. Had a stepdad. I'm like, I will never be a family man like you were. You know what I mean? I have to bring up old mean stuff, but it's things like that, and it's neat. As I grew out of the Army, I got a phone call from a private. Well, they're an NCO now, and mm-hmm. I didn't even remember him, but he's like, you went to me when I was in basic training. You looked at me and you're like, you can't quit. What are you going to go back to? If you just stick with this for a couple more weeks, you're going to be a better person. And right. He's like, I've got a family, and it was all because at that moment you came up to me and said this, and I couldn't. Then I saw his picture on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I remember that private. But it happens all the time to me, and it happens all the time to anybody in extensive leadership, even here. And I'm not bragging on me, but it just happens, and I know it's happened to other people. Like I had one of our tradesmen called me, and he's like, you saved my life, and I'm like, what? And he's like, you told me that if I didn't stop drinking, I would die and find a short rope, and that would be the end of me. And I took it as a challenge, and I went and I got help, and I got fixed, and he's back in the trade line, so
love it.
You never know how you're going to touch somebody. But if you go out there, and I think the point of the YouTube thing is they were trying to say, don't go out and hire a mentor. That's dumb, because mentorship doesn't come like that. You know what I mean? Go take some responsibility, see what you see what you like, and have your personal little heroes. All right. So yeah, I think it's in context. At first I was like, okay, whatever. And then when I found out what they were talking about, I'm like, they're right. They're absolutely right. All right. It's, I'm not going to call Professor Owens every day because I need to know how to be a doctor like right now, and how to get that PhD. I would probably listen to some of your other podcasts from time to time, pick up what you're putting down, read some of your dissertations when I have time, go research and kind of use it as a steer. You know what I mean? Instead of hiring all your time and energy. Here's a sad thing too. There are people out there that will sell their leadership.
Yes. In
my opinion, or sell their mentorship. In my opinion, I wouldn't pay you for that. I don't need it. I can get it for free there's 4 billion people in the world. I'll find some. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think that FYI, if you do read my dissertation, that is great sleeping material. So if you ever having trouble sleeping at night, you don't need no-dose, or not a no-dose, but you don't need a NyQuil or anything like that, or any of those sleeping formulas. Just go out, Google my dissertation, and I promise you'll be sleeping about 5 to 7 minutes, no doubt about it.
I'm gonna find it now. It's a challenge.
But yeah, so you know what? Listen, I know we're one thing we both have in common is we both have a military background, and I've talked to plenty of veterans and people who've gotten out of the military. Some have retired, some have just done 8, 9, 10, 11, however many years, and decide to get out. And one thing that I think is common amongst all of our military personnel is while we're in the military, we're so busy doing our job or maybe having fun, however you want to describe it, that a lot of times we displace our education, right? We don't always take advantage of it. Some of it's because we're offered trainings and we're trying to do a good job of making sure you're not getting Article 15s and all this other stuff.
Ranger School.
Yeah, you're getting all these schools in, so you're not really paying attention. But if you could tell Cardinal Nation just a little bit about your educational journey. We've talked about the OLO program here a little bit on the podcast, but tell us a little bit about your educational journey.
Here's where I told you in the pre-broadcast, I got a story to tell. All right. So it all starts in 1997 in Fostoria, Ohio. I went to a little high school called St. Wendell High School. Doesn't even exist anymore. They tore it down. Okay. And I was selected. I wanted to go to college. I really couldn't afford it. So I was given the opportunity to have a minority scholarship at South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Never heard of an HBC in my life. We don't have them in Ohio. I didn't know at the time. So I go there. I was a music major, and I had the time of my life, man. And I remember my parents, this is kind of you might want to edit this, but this is kind of a funny side note. They're like, do you notice anything? And I'm like, no. Like, you're the only white kid here. I was a long hair rock and roll. I didn't care. Right. I was there. I was in the 101 band. I got a great experience. But I left there because I had like a girlfriend back home or something. And I went to the University of Toledo. And then when I had to pay for school, I was like, man, I've always wanted to join the Army. So I did. Had no intent in making it a career. So went to Toledo, studied elementary education, knocked some stuff out of there, joined the Army. But I always had it in the back of my mind that GI Bill was one of the grabbing points for me. And I'm like, I'll get that someday. Mm-hmm. So I joined the Army, my first 4-year contract. And then the most, life was pretty good. Hanging out in Germany, met my wife, girlfriend, then became my wife. And then September 11th happened, and it changed our world forever. At that very moment, the Army became a very real place. We weren't just talking about training anymore. We were talking about the real deal. Right. So went and invaded Iraq, came back, got kind of short-toured, went to a new unit, went into OIF 3. Now we're talking into the fighting. I was a 19 Delta cavalryman, born and bred right out of Fort Knox, Kentucky. So went down. OIF 3 changed my perspective on things. I've been very fortunate not to, really be diagnosed with PTSD or anything. Had a good wife, faith practice, good family. I was lucky, you know what I mean? But it started to put things into perspective. One, I'm not going to be in the Army forever. There's no way. 2, I was starting to look at being an officer, and you need a college education to do that. And so when I got back, I went to Fort Knox to do what they call the TRADOC time. I had to be I was a cab instructor and then later on a drill sergeant. And that it was the opportunity. It was like a breather I needed to say, hey, here I am. I'm right here in Fort Knox. Louisville's a big East school. A gentleman named Mark Casey came in and talked to me about this program, which this is 2006. So it was a new breakthrough program. It was kind of just getting off the start. Yeah. More and more colleges were starting to look at this. Hey, people got practical experience. College prices are probably a little too expensive, but how can we get people in working adults, working professionals into a program that is suited for them, where we can give them college credit for their work experience? Because for years, think about this. A lot of people were like, oh, that was my 20s. I'm not in my 20s no more. I can never go back. I missed that boat. Nonsense. All right. And Mark Casey said it just like that. That's nonsense. You are all working professionals. You all have experiences. You all have the ACES education. You've all got schools. Louisville can help you. So I did it. And then mostly through the PLA program, or the PLA that in the 300 level program is when I really discovered, wow, I've got a shot at actually being a professional at something. Because what's a combat arm guy? I wasn't going to be a cop. I didn't want to do that. I wasn't going to be a security guard at Walmart. No offense to any security guards at Walmart. You know what I mean? But that was not for me. I did all my action in Iraq, and that's where I was going to keep it. And it was, I told myself someday when I retire, and it took me 14 years, by the way, to graduate. 13 years to graduate from college because I could only do a semester at a time, pace by pace, going to Iraq, working with the instructors. So that's my educational journey. And now I'm applying it. The organizational leadership and learning program is practical. It's practical. That's what I like about it. I apply concepts and stuff that I learn every day. And it gave me a good ground. When I retired from the Army, I was worn out. I'm like, I am not going into a master's program. But we'll get a PMP certification. That'll tie in very well for where I want to go into. And that groundwork through the OLL, really gave me some really good foundation to earn my PMP. It's got project management involved in it, very well rounded. So it's put me where I am today, and we're using concepts, So that's my journey, man. I still continue to learn every day. It doesn't end. I learn how not smart and smart I am every day. I work with some of the best engineers in Northern New York, and I'm like, I walk out of rooms with my ears bleeding, like, I don't know what the heck's going on, but I go back the next time, smarter thanks to them. So it hasn't ended.
That's amazing. I love it. One of the new degree tracks we just rolled out was our project management for the modern workforce. It's brand new, so it was not around when you were coming through the program. But for all those out there who are thinking about it, who are considering it, that, and the third, how has your project management certification or being PMP certified, how's it made you successful in your industry or working with those engineers or all those different collaborative bodies of people you work with?
Awesome, man. First off, your education and project management professional certification will organize you. It'll teach you to think organized and in a business mindset. Imagine coming out of the Army and using all your Army terms and speaking in the military writing style. That education in my transition really helped me get into the business style of thinking, get into so there's that. But also putting a new aspect of most senior NCOs and officers get out in the Army are very organized. It's just the way we're an organized set. But when you add that business component to it, it really brings it to life and makes sense. So that's how it's helped me. It's helped me talk a little bit of the talk with our project managers here. So that I don't look like a total fool, and I'm like, so what was your procurement management plan? And they look at me like, procurement management plan? I'm like, yeah, man, you're supposed to do that. Like, I only got the gold standard in the world. I don't know, but you tell me why you're not doing it, or how to manage your cost, earn value management. Those kind of things really are really good tools that I've been able to at least share with the team that they may or may not have been doing, or had different ways of doing it. And so that's how it's helped me in this industry. But really, more than anything, it's really showed me that there is a path for working professionals outside that hard college degree. I noticed Louisville is going for those micro credentials. That's hot, man. Yep. That's hot. Working professionals, industrial certifications are a very great doorstep into a better career, either where you're at or somewhere else, because people are paying top dollar. We got a side of the labor issue of people not coming back to work or too many people retiring, which we always knew was coming. We were told for years and it's happened, that education alone and that certification, like I hire and fire people all the time. You come in with me with a master's in project management, I'm thinking, that's awesome, man. Great job. And then you come in with a working professional with a PMP certification. I'm like, yeah, we'll see you in a minute. Let's call this guy first, because I know what it takes. I know what you got to do to get that application. You have to have experience. You have to have applied experience all in the application. It is audited and checked usually. And that exam stinks. I'm glad I never have to sit for that exam ever again. Well, it doesn't stink, but it's hard. It's like the bar. It should be hard. It's a global standard for project management, The only internationally recognized industrial certification in the world.
Sweet.
Project management.
There it is, right?
It is.
So let me ask you this. No, I mean, clearly we're going to rewind time, or maybe we can fast forward time, right? It doesn't really matter. But let's say you don't have the degree, you don't have the certification, you're sitting in there, you're an adult, you're contemplating, you got all your years of your military background, so to speak, or whatever you have in the background. But if I were a recruiter and I was trying to recruit you back to school, maybe to the OLO program or any adult degree seeking, a program, how would I best recruit you?
Well, as a working family man, you'd have to tell me how I'm going to be able to fit it in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How flexible are you? Because a lot of us, came out of the 90s, the old way of college. I sat in a giant auditorium and I would be lucky to catch business hours if I needed to talk to the professor. And if I missed it, I really didn't want to talk to his aide. I ain't paying them. I'm paying, paying you, a lot. All right. But I think if you were to recruit a working professional, you'd have to show how flexible it is, how flexible with their time you can make it. It's as simple as that. Of course, money's the next. How much does it cost? You know what I mean? But that can always go with like, it costs this, but look how much aid we got for you. You know what I mean? And look how fast we can get you done, you know? So actually in some of your, I saw a thing you guys did yesterday, you know, spot on.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you guys did well. You know, I think it's going well. And I only looked because I cared, you know what I mean? I kind of wanted to see how it was recruited, because I remember when it was recruited to me, it was in face and personal. Mark Casey was walking the buildings to get soldiers because not everybody had access to the things we do now. And he did a great job. I miss him.
Yeah. And you know, here's the thing, man. We say, especially in those learning cafes, you know, finish fast, finish here, finish Cardinal, right? We do want you to finish fast at the University of Louisville. I think it's important because, like you said, I think we are flexible to a degree. We're as flexible as we possibly can without breaking anything, so to speak, without getting you disenrolled from a course or anything like that. And I think that is important. And I think our costs, I think we're comparable. A lot of the team, I always tell everybody, you know, our goal, we're trying to be the Ritz Carlton. You know, we want to be the Ritz Carlton of adult learning experience, because we know, like, you know, the statistics say there's 1.3 million adults out there with some college and no degree. Clearly, our program cannot hold it would be great if we would get all 1.3 million, but that would require a whole lot of faculty and a whole lot of other things. And so we say, you know, what do we want to do? How do we make it the best, right? How do we give them the best experience we can possibly give them, and then use our platform to promote whatever they're doing in life and having success, and then give them ability to reach back to help other people, because I think that's what it's all about. I think those aren't. I wouldn't say those are our gems, but those are definitely very close to what I think we need to be doing in order to really make us different from any adult. Because people ask me all the time, why'd you pick the Ritz Carlton? And I say, because the Ritz Carlton is a great hotel, but it's not for everybody, right? Not everybody's willing to pay $400 a night for a hotel to stay, and the Ritz Carlton is very aware of that, right? If you just need, you know, a bed, a bath, and a toilet, I mean, you can go to, you know, any 50, 40, you can go to a Motel 6 or whatever the case may be to get that. But if you want a unique experience where you're going to be valued and treasured and esteemed, and like you say, treated like the working professional that we feel you are, then I think that we're the best program for you. And that's not for everybody, because some people want something faster, some people want something cheaper, and that's okay, right? And we don't. I'm not downing any adult. I'm not downing any other institution out there that can do it cheaper, faster, whatever than we are. But what we do is we just pride ourselves in being so unique and so personable that we want you to be a part of our program.
Heck yeah.
So before I get you out of here, Charles, I like to have a little fun with the guests, and we have a little session we call Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is just 5 questions I'm going to ask you, and you can just answer them with the first thing that comes to your mind, and that will be great. And then I'll get you some closing thoughts, so we can get you out of here for today, so you go, you know, do some amazing things and head into this great weekend. As well, I guess it's snowing up there, starting to snow up there, so you can go do some some winter prep, right? Some winter prep. So here we go. Rapid fire. Question 1. Questions coming. Here they go. If you could pick one word that describe your life so far, what would it be and why?
Rock and roll, man, because it's a ballad. It's fast. Sometimes it's slow. It's a little bit of Wu-Tang, and it's a little bit of country and a little bit of rock and roll, man. That's why.
I love it. That's the best answer I've heard ever. Love it. Rapid fire question number 2. What are 3 non-negotiable characteristics that anyone on your team, tribe, or workplace has to have?
Pride.
Yep.
Honesty.
Yep.
Moral.
Love it. Pride, honesty, and morals. Can't be on the team if you can't have it. Rapid fire question number 3. What is your favorite dessert?
Ice cream.
Is there a best flavor?
There is. Crumbs along the Mohawk, only sold at New York Stewart's gas stations.
Oh, I've never had that.
Of course not. You don't have a Stewart's in Louisville.
Exact, man. Do I got to go to New York to get that?
It's local here. I think there's some in PA, but mostly in northern New York. We ain't the city. We are 20 miles south of Canada in Watertown, New York. Stewart's is everywhere up here.
Well, you know, I love going to Niagara Falls, so I go through Buffalo all the time. So
you won't see a Stewart's in Buffalo.
Are you
You gotta
serious?
you got to keep going east, man. I could be
I'll
wrong.
figure
It used to be that way, but I could be wrong.
Okay, either way, we'll figure it out. I'll figure it out, right? Here's the thing. If you could do your career all over again, right, where would you be working?
A professional wrestler.
Ooh, that's a first.
Like what you see on WWE. I would do that.
Really?
Yeah. I always wanted to. I always thought that would be the best.
I love it. So
And now that I have the focus as an adult, I could probably figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the era. I was definitely an Ultimate Warrior fan. Definitely loved the Legion of Doom. I was, you know what? Even though Hulk Hogan is kind of like the premier wrestling guy, I was never a Hogan fan.
I hear you there. I as a little kid, Hulk Hogan, though, when you hear dun, 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 real America, you got fired up. But when new casting characters, the Macho Man blew up, the Ultimate Warrior blew up. You were coming out of that era of the honky tonk man and weird dudes. And then when the Bad Attitude era happened, oh man, look out. The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah. When you heard the glass shatter, you knew it was business. When the glass
even today, and here's what's cool about today's wrestling, and I still watch it. Love Monday Night Raw. Thank you, Hulu. I don't have to catch it every Monday now, but the athleticism that these wrestlers can do, and now steroid free because it's like, highly regulated is amazing. So I don't know how they do it. I wish I could do that, but I always wanted to be a professional wrestler.
I mean, they spend a lot of time in the gym. If they're not in the gym, they're definitely on the ring or on the road. So, all right, here we go. Fifth question, last question, rapid fire. If you could sit with your 13-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Oh, well, here's exactly what I would tell me. Take risks. All right. Okay. Do things that you're scared of. It's okay. It'll all pan out and it'll all buff out.
Okay. Yeah. I love it. So here is my fun question. I've asked this to a lot of guests. I think I've asked this to almost every guest. It's been one of my premier monikers, I guess, on this. So here it is right here. If your life was a title of a book, made up or real, what would it be and why?
I think it would be How Fostoria, Ohio Changed the World.
Ooh. Well, I'm an Ohio guy myself.
Yeah.
I came from a little town called Marion, Ohio.
I know Marion. So you're a Northwest Ohio guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Fostoria, Ohio, How Fostoria, Ohio Changed the World. I love it. I would buy the book just because I'm an Ohio guy. So that's why I'd buy the book, right? Yeah. So here we go. Before we get out of here today, we all go back and do some amazing things and keep changing the world, because we keep changing the world is what we do every day. What wise counsel would you shout from the mountaintops that you want everyone to hear? This is your chance to shine. Your 30 seconds. I can't give you your 15 minutes of fame, unfortunately, or maybe I did, but you're definitely going to get 30 seconds. So what would your wise counsel be that you want the world to know?
My wise counsel would be always remember that we are a free people, that we are also a responsible people, and we are responsible for our successes and failures and to capitalize on both. That's what I would want people to know.
That is amazing. That we are free, but with that freedom comes a responsibility. And so you have to be free and responsible, because your success will rise and fall on it. Man, this was a phenomenal interview, Charles. I wish I had more time with you today, but I know we both have to go change the world. You have to go do it in New York. I got to go do it in Kentucky. Man, this has been a great interview. I loved every second of it. What else? Is there anything else you'd like to say or shout out any organization, anybody today?
Yeah. Shout out to the University of Louisville for giving me this time. Of course, the Organizational Leadership and Learning Program, I think, is the best well-rounded program of all the tracks. So if you just want the all piece, you can fit it in. And I highly recommend for those professionals, look at those micro credentials that you guys are offering. If you don't want to go into a big master's program, I don't. I'm too old, man. I'm 42. I don't want to do it. So get your PMP, get your SHRM if you're going into HR, or your APHR. Get a little something in engineering. Go get it. What's stopping you?
I love it. Well, Charles, man, this is what you do, man. I appreciated your time today. I want you to take care, stay safe, man. Keep doing amazing things, and we will definitely be in touch with you soon.
All right. I hope to hear from you again soon.
Yes. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Elza.
Yeah.